Hi, thanks for viewing my presentation. I'm Dan Hickey. I'm a professor with the Learning Sciences program at Indiana University. I'm going to talk today about some innovative uses of generative AI in instruction. This work recently has been done in collaboration with folks from the IU Faculty Fellows supported by you. It's the University Information Technology Services under the leadership of my departmental colleague, Ann Leftwich. So, what we call professional authenticity has been central to my work really for the second half of my career. There's near universal agreement of the value of authentic learning environments, but the National Academy of Sciences, these three learning scientists, in 2021, in reporting on STEM education and computing education, asked, authentic to who? And they pointed out that professionally authentic experiences are very typical, especially in computing education and STEM education, right? We have problem-based learning and anchored instruction. Now, the National Academy argued that professionally authentic experiences are often unwelcoming for diverse learners and learners from non-professional families. Now, expansive framing theory, this is a situative transfer theory that I have taken on really from the late Randi Engles, who passed away the year that this paper or the key paper was published. Randy argued that this is really the case for all learners. That professionally authentic experiences are very alien. Instead, personally authentic experiences build on the cultural and linguistic assets that every student brings to the classroom. Now, the NAS tied this to culturally relevant pedagogy, very prominent uh, inclusive curricular approach that's very popular in the US. It's very consistent with expansive framing, even to the point that I am reframing my work using expansive framing as personal authenticity. So I piloted a approach that uses personal authenticity and generative AI to engage and assess learners in my own graduate classes. And based on that experience, I created a module for this brand new course that Adam Maxwell, my new colleague, he's an AI faculty fellow, a journalism professor, created this essential Gen AI skills course. And mine there is the one at the very bottom, studying and learning relating course content to your experiences, interests, and goals. This is what it looks like. This is the actual module. I talk a little bit about engagement. I try to make this accessible to undergraduates. Um, and I talk about transfer, and I give some very everyday explanations of why making numerous connections with personally relevant people, places, and topics and times beyond the course will help ensure that you transfer the learning that you engage in class. And I talk some about personal authenticity, and then I ask students to try it out. And so this is this little step-by-step thing. Uh, Central to this is a technique that I've been using to enact expansive framing really for the past 15 years. Really, I call it resource ranking. So every reading assignment, they all have some elements. They can be chapters, they can be sections of an article, they can be goals, whatever. If you have students rank them in order of personal relevance and justify that ranking from their own personal perspective, it really pushes students to make these numerous connections with ideas outside of the course. Literally rank them and justify them. And then compare that with Gen AI. I'll show you an example of this later. It's quite astonishing when you tell generative AI who you are and ask it to explain something to you or to rank those same elements uh, from its perspective. It's breathtaking what it'll do, as I'll show you. Um, we warn them about copyright. We give them these prompts. And then finally, you can ask quiz, and this is what's pretty amazing, is Gen AI can formatively assess you in that context, and then summatively assess you in general to ensure that that knowledge is going to transfer. So let me show you an example. This is Ty Barth. He's an EdD student in the IST program, and this is his profile from my class, from my P540 class last semester. And I gave students a version of that assignment, an earlier version of that, and this is what happened. Uh, so Ty, after just literally copying and pasting his profile, no, first I said, okay, rank them yourself. So engage with them well enough. So this alone is an extremely helpful way to help students learn this incredibly complicated thing. I mean, this is probably the most complicated thing that students are asked to learn. I don't assess my students' knowledge of this because it's so challenging, but I engage them in it. So explain how each of these do. And as you can see here, Ty is really engaged. These are fairly complicated. They require some embrace of situative learning theory. But then I asked Ty to upload his profile and then ask ChatGPT to do the same thing. And the explanations are different with different rationales. So by comparing, for instance, Ty's number one was explanation number two, but ChatGPT had a different reason for making explanation one. And more than that, it actually provided examples of how they would apply that in that context. This is really breathtaking from my perspective because not only is it enhancing this personal relevance, it's extending it. And then it's a pretty simple thing to say, now give me open-ended formative assessments of the explanations in that context, one at a time, and evaluate my responses. ChatGPT is amazingly good at this. How does this framing that you will need to use this knowledge in diverse and unforeseen contexts affect your approach to learning and practicing Ohm's law during the course? uh, Student response, it would lead you to study harder and use, that's a strong answer. But here's a little more, right? So the student already has engaged very deeply. This is a key thing about formative assessment, is that when you get students entirely focused on a concept like this, then they're primed cognitively to understand much more. So here you can see this is a very, very detailed explanation. This is a very easy and efficient way for students to learn on their own. Then, one last thing. Now give me 5 challenging multiple choice items with partially correct responses. So assess for transfer in general. So let's make sure that the student understands this in a way that is almost certain to generalize, to transfer to other settings. And ChatGPT, this is a this is a really tough question. And in this case, the student chose C. And not only does ChatGPT go through and explain them, uh, explain why the correct answer is correct, but it goes in and you saw it picked at C, partially correct. Now, these kinds of items, these are what we call best answer items. And typically, most educators are really bad at writing these items, and they typically really are the province of professional item writers. And ChatGPT just nails it and then gives the explanation and a final verdict wrap up there at the bottom. So I think we can all agree that this is a powerful start, and I'm really excited of studying this. In fact, there's another module in the course that a cognitive psychologist created using the so-called testing effect. It's a very traditional memory-based approach, and I'm really interested in getting a little bit of funding and doing sort of A/B comparisons using, we have tools within our Canvas learning management system that allows us to run experiments in our classes. Also want to point out, if you're interested, Maggie Gilchrist, another awesome new colleague in this work, has created instructor-facing, a faculty module AI course that I encourage you to consider. Thank you very much for watching my presentation. If you're interested in these courses, these two courses are both available at IU Expand. There's the URLs. You can just search for them at expand.iu.edu. You will need to get an IU guest account if you're not an IU faculty or student. It's a simple form that you fill out there at that link, or just search for IU guest account. And please stay in touch. You can email me, feel free. I'm dthickey@iu.edu. Thanks for your time.